Welcome, everybody, to Navigating Change, the podcast from Teibel, Inc. My name is Pete Wright, and I am here with Howard Teibel right over there.
And most excitedly, we're here with Roger Stackpoole.
This is great. Roger Stackpoole, Vice President of Finance and Administration at Moyne College. Roger, welcome to Navigating Change.
Well, thank you very much, Pete, and thank you very much, Howard. I'm looking forward to this discussion. It'll be fun.
Well, here's hoping, but Howard is also here, so, you know, there may be some debate. Hey, so here's why we've gathered here together today. We're coming up on EACUBO, the 2014 annual workshop, and as usual, we've got just a fantastic catalog of great speakers, and you guys together are taking your road show to EACUBO to Philadelphia. The conversation you will be hosting there is Reaching Across the Aisle, the CFO and CAO strategic partnership. Now, from that title, what I assume is, and I'll start with you, Roger, that you have the answer to this decades-long, nay, centuries-long Sharks versus Jets rivalry between finance and academic teams. Is that I assume what you're going to be presenting to folks?
Oh, I wish I could say I had the answer, Pete. I really do. But I think that what we're going to hopefully provide is the some starting thoughts to an engaging conversation with the folks that decide to attend this session about how can we reach across the aisle, so to speak, and the emphasis is on the word reaching. How can we as administrators reach out to our faculty and academic colleagues to help? But answers, no. I've got some experiences of what we've tried and some things that have worked pretty well, but I'm really hoping that I learn a lot from the people that attend.
I just was going to listen to you and then take that and just run with it. All right.
Clearly, there's been a miscommunication in the report. I think the root question here is, why is this idea of cross-departmental collaboration an important one in your view? What is it that we're trying to fix here in the institution?
Well, let me say a few words first. So, I get the joke behind your comment, Pete, because this is one of those, in some cases intractable, but in many more cases doable problem to deal with. And one of the reasons why I'm excited about speaking with Roger is because I think Roger, in my view, exemplifies a certain way of approaching it. And you said the word before, Roger, when you said about reaching. There's a lot of waiting for the other side, and there's a lot of view that the other side is the problem. And I think you come from the place, just from all my discussions with you over the years, is that we cannot wait for the other side to come to us. We have to show initiative because they are as close to mission as you can get. And you and I had a great conversation when we were together talking about mission and mission living in both the business side of the house as well as the academic side, but we live the mission differently. I'd love to hear you say a few more words about that, because I think that's the piece that sometimes we forget. It's not about the fact that we don't both share the mission, the business side of the house and academic. It's that we serve it differently, but the business side of the house has a unique responsibility, and that to me is what you bring to the table in terms of the conversation. Is that a fair statement?
I think that is a very nice way to characterize it. I think, even in that initial question, Pete, the word fix, I guess I would even pick on that word. So that's sometimes the dialogue doesn't get going in the most effective ways because there is at least a perception, if not an explicit statement about we need to fix something or there is a problem, so that's unavoidable to make people feel like they're then the target of that. So like they're the ones that need to be fixed. They have the problem. And I think that's part of what is at issue here. What we have is we have a changing dynamic within higher education. We all know this, and it's the economics. We have student debt and other challenges to affordability. We have an inability due to many, many factors to just continually raise, our tuition rates and our room and board rates. So there's this downward pressure on our ability to do that. And how do we live within our means? And And you're right, Howard. The faculty are delivering the education. That's what they are focusing on. So that means for many years they're not focusing on what it takes to run a college or what it takes to control our costs or to live within our means. Now we're asking them to participate. We have to ask faculty to help us in that very endeavor, to help us prepare our institutions to be sustainable in a different economic model going forward.
And one of the things, Roger, that we're going to do in our session is we're going to conduct this very much, and because I think this will be the best way to do it, as a conversation and really get people to both. I've discovered over the years is that there is so much collective wisdom in the audience. They know as much as we know. They come basically because they could use the opportunity to sit back and reflect on this. But they're doing things in their campuses that show success. But there is an overarching theme, I think, that is missing very often, which is what you talk about, which is this idea that we have to have a mindset that we're going to bring ourselves to the table and then get faculty be interested in what they think is important, right? Isn't that part of the problem, is that administration, rightfully so, has a series of problems, the financial one's the big one, and then they end up going to the faculty trying to convince them that this is the problem they need to care about, as opposed to going to the faculty and saying, what do you care about, and finding a way to build trust. So I'd love to have you to share a couple things that we'll be expounding upon at the conference. You talked about this live incubator, at Le Moyne, and some of the things that you're doing there. Can you give one example of something that you're doing that that you think is reaching across the aisle?
Sure. Yeah, and you're right. I mean, at EACUBO, for example, one of the things that we're hoping to accomplish in these sessions that EACUBO is hosting is that they will provide a space, they'll provide a mechanism or an environment where everyone exchanges ideas to develop new ideas and incubate, in fact, those ideas into real solutions that can be taken back to campuses. So how do we have a mindset of trying to work with faculty, work with academic leadership, but also work with that administrative leadership in areas that maybe we're not always as involved with? I think that's the work that is more and more in front of us, as whether you're a vice president for finance, whether you're a controller, whether you're in other areas of the administrative function. We have to collaborate more and more across our campus. We are here to serve others, so as we view things through the eyes of those that we serve, I think that's where it really needs to start. And I think that's where many of our colleagues are realizing their greatest benefit is by reaching out to listen to others, in terms of what they're facing, what they fear, what their perspectives are, and the like.
What kind of sorry, go ahead.
No, go right ahead.
So what kind of receptivity are you finding at Le Moyne in the way that you're reaching out to faculty?
One, I think, good example is working with our Faculty Senate Finance Committee, where the provost and myself, we meet with that group on a regular basis, several times this semester, and we talk in a very transparent way about the financial circumstances of the college, immediate term and longer term. And we exchange ideas. And so that led to a series of meetings actually with faculty leadership, larger department heads, program heads, because we realized that we have to make some changes and that we need the faculty to help us with that. So it started out by a series of meetings to help faculty understand our current realities, which then led the faculty to suggesting actually that they bring in more of their colleagues, and would Linda, the provost, and myself be willing to meet with them? We said, of course. We broadened the group and extended the conversation so that they would understand what are some of the things the college is facing, which enabled the faculty to then begin to work on the things the provost needed them to work on, to enhance program, but also help control some of the costs. So, I'd love to talk more about that, when we get together in Philadelphia. But that's a great example that over the course of months, many, many meetings, I'm just really proud and encouraged by the fact that dialogue has led to faculty actually saying to their peers, we need to get you more involved so that you can understand, these factors and begin working on longer-term solutions for Le Moyne.
What I hear you doing that I think is at the heart of this is you're building trust. That is probably the missing piece. And there's pockets of trust, but when you get people to express what they care about deeply, they can listen better, right? If you don't give them the chance to speak, they're waiting to speak. And in many ways, I think what I want to communicate to this audience is how can we, because I think this is something we got to keep getting better at, how can we be more interested in what the other side has to say than what we have to say? It's so easy to fall into. This is what I think is important and what I have to get done. And my guess is that through a series of successes you've had over the years, you're seeing the value in taking that point of view. It takes more time. Here's the downside, right? It takes more time. It's not necessarily efficient, but it's probably more effective.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. Transparency without trust is valueless. Frankly, and if there isn't going to be some element of trust in any given relationship, right, you're not going to be able to get into the real discussions about things that are going to matter most. So, so you're right. The provost and myself have worked hard together with each other, and together and separately with, in particular, faculty, but the entire campus, to just continually have dialogue so that people understood that we actually do share. We have a shared commitment to our mission. So again, if I don't know anyone who pick another group, but if someone thinks that any of us in the role of administrators don't care as much, let's say, as faculty about our academic mission, I don't know an administrator that would agree with that. And so I think, how do you reach out past that and spend more time with faculty and others so that you can earn their trust, earn their faith that you do care indeed about the mission, and what you really just want is to exchange ideas and work together on finding solutions.
Roger, I think that gets to an important point as I'm sitting here listening to you guys talk, and I'm thinking about the EACUBO audience. You're talking to a room of business officers, right? And so it's hard not to think, at least initially, that, wow, this may be a slightly one-sided conversation. And what you are asking is, it's a big ask, so to speak. You are asking and working toward changing the nature of sort of responsibility for driving the mission and saying, the academic side of the house, we're asking you to take responsibility in an area that you may not be comfortable taking that responsibility initially, and we want to help you do that. I wonder if you could, if you just put yourself forward a couple of weeks and think, we're closing out the session, and we have some suggestions based on your experience at Le Moyne and other institutions that you've seen, other relationships you've witnessed. 8 o'clock Monday morning, here's the first thing you need to do. The first call you need to make. Here's what that looks like to your collaborative provost or chief academic officer. What is that thing?
Wow, that's very interesting. Maybe it's as simple as talking to that dean, that provost, and saying, how can I become more engaged with the faculty, and how can I be of most help to you in all that you're trying to accomplish with your faculty? I think that's, in some ways, that's how Linda Lemura here as our provost and myself started. And she invited me into more and more of those meetings, as well as, being on committees. Because you're right, I think we are asking staff and faculty alike on our campuses to get more involved in things that maybe they weren't historically or customarily, as involved with. I had a member of our philosophy faculty address that actually with me once, a great statement that in his literally 40 years at the college, he had never been really asked to give some serious consideration to what needs to happen to ensure the sustainability and perpetuity of the college. That was not the kind of conversations that he had been asked to participate in the past. So why now? Maybe that's also important to the listeners as we think about the upcoming conference. Why now? Because things are changing, and I think we're reading stories more and more about the challenges on certain campuses, the need to make very serious change And on those campuses where the conversation maybe isn't going so well, we're seeing the effects. We're seeing signs of strain in those communities. So I think the time is right to have this dialogue about how can we do this. No one has it solved completely. So how do we share ideas so that we all can help our institutions do this better? Have a nice, open, honest, authentic dialogue about what matters most.
Well, it's a wonderful way to frame it. I think that sort of at least alleviates the what may be a circumspect response to an initial kind of outreach for institutions and communities that have had a historic sort of struggle in that area. Howard, you have a concept that you've been talking about of late, that we're framing as sort of strategic communication. When you're talking about communication, how does that concept play into this dialogue between the CFO and the CAO and the strategic partnership?
Well, first of all, I want to say I'm struck by the simplicity of Roger's statement, and equally how hard it is sometimes to do the simplest thing. Right, Roger. That to me is everyone's probably listening, saying, that is common sense. But man, how little is that done to just to say to the provost or the chief academic officer, listen, I'm giving you a call because I'm interested to know. I really want to figure out how I can help you. I am so struck by how important a message that is, but equally how simple it is. Now, as I was reflecting on, I think what I mean by what I think about strategic communication, it has a lot to do with not the mechanics, the transaction. You think about communication. There's what we want to communicate. There's how we communicate, and there's why we communicate it. And strategic communication is really being clear why what I'm telling you is important. It's sort of what you just ended with, Roger, when you said, maybe a piece of this is we need to put this in context for people about why now. Why now is a powerful question. And the answer to that question points or should point to strategically why it's important to do it right now. So I'd say to you, Pete, again, to try and keep it as simple as possible, I'm always asking, I might understand what you're telling me, but do I understand why you're telling me this? And if I don't hear the why very clearly, I ask out of the gate. So that to me is what is at the core of raising something to being tied to strategy, is why is this important to focus on?
I think this sense of having a clarity of purpose in communications, the strategic part, goes so far toward building the trust that Roger was talking about earlier. To me, this sort of transparency is trust, and I think this is going to be a fantastic conversation, and look forward to lots of great participation.
Yeah, I'm really excited, Roger. And we've just practiced. This is perfect. Now I'm even more convinced that we got something worth talking about.
You know what? Forget it. Let's just play back this podcast when you get there. They don't even need to. We can just listen.
Yeah. You know what? That's right.
Right.
I'm going to bring the wine, Roger. We'll just sit up there and we'll listen.
That's right.
Roger, deepest thanks for joining Howard and myself on this regular show. We sure appreciate you jumping into this conversation, and I hope that Howard's behavior didn't scare you off, and that you'll come back again sometime and join us in the future.
As always, it's been enlightening to listen to Howard, and it's been great. Pete, nice to meet you and participate in this. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you very much. Howard, any closing comments from you, sir? Anything else we need to cover for the good people?
No, I tell you, this was I equally appreciate Roger's. You and I have done a lot of these one-on-one, and it's so clear to me how important it is to bring institution leaders into this conversation, because one, I think it makes it a richer conversation. But the truth is, the people that listen to this, they really do want to hear from their peers. So I really, thank you, Roger, for doing this, and I'm really excited to be working with you.
The same, Howard. Thank you for being willing to help with this conversation and help EACUBO work with its members. And as I said, I'm sure I'm going to learn a tremendous amount by participating in this session myself.
Outstanding, folks. If you want to find out, let's see. First of all, if you're subscribing to this show, head over to our website and you can find out more about EACUBO, the 2014 annual workshop. You can, if you're listening to this podcast online, there you will see the details. You can find Howard Teibel and Roger Stackpoole reaching across the aisle Friday, March 21st at 11:45 a.m. That'll be at the Hyatt Regency Philadelphia Penn's Landing. Head over to eacubo.org for more information on this conference, on this annual workshop, and to register. Make sure you go to Philadelphia. It's fantastic. It's a great city. You'd be doing yourself a great disservice not to just show up. On behalf of Howard and Roger, I am Pete Wright. Thanks so much for listening, folks, and we'll catch you next week on Navigating Change, the podcast from Teibel Inc.